And I think the holdup was just that Ben and Matt hadn't been leads in a movie, and they were insisting that they, because everyone wanted to replace them with other people.
Remember when two Boston guys that nobody took seriously wrote themselves a movie, handed each other the lead roles, and then walked off with Oscars for writing it? Well, Good Will Hunting hit theaters in 1997. Matt Damon plays Will, a janitor at MIT who solves impossible math problems on hallway chalkboards between mopping floors. Robin Williams is Sean, the therapist assigned to crack him open. Ben Affleck is the loyal best friend. Stellan Skarsgård is the professor desperate to harness all that genius. And Minnie Driver is the Harvard woman who sees straight through Will's whole act. Gus Van Sant directed the whole thing for Miramax and turned a quiet Boston drama into one of the defining movies of the whole decade. Today we're going to count down 15 weird facts about Good Will Hunting. And stick around for number 1, because one of the movie's most tender scenes only exists because Matt Damon fell dead asleep on set and the crew just decided to roll with it. But before we begin, hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. All right, we're heading to Southie. How you like them apples? Number 15. Good Will Hunting was almost an FBI fugitive. The therapy couch tearjerker that everybody quotes started as a paranoid government chase movie. It began as a 40-page assignment that Damon wrote for a Harvard playwriting class. When Affleck climbed aboard to blow it up into a full screenplay, the two got a little nervous that nobody in 1990s Hollywood would sit through two guys discussing their feelings. So they buried the drama under espionage. The FBI sniffs out Will's genius and starts hunting him to force him onto government payroll, because clearly being good at math now qualifies you for spy work. Castle Rock president Rob Reiner read it and then handed down the note that saved the movie. Torch the government nonsense, but keep Will and a shrink. Screenwriter William Goldman gave it a pass too, and for years people whispered that he secretly rewrote the thing, a rumor that he swatted down every time. His one real fingerprint was the ending, nudging them toward Will chasing Skyler to California instead of escaping the Pentagon through an air vent. Then came the prank, shopping the script around. Damon and Affleck got convinced that executives were praising pages that nobody had read, so they planted a trap on page 60, a graphic, out-of-nowhere sex scene between two of the male leads, dropped in for no reason at all on Earth. Studio after studio gushed. Not one mentioned it. And then one exec at Miramax stopped cold and asked why two straight guys were suddenly going at it. Caught red-handed reading. Miramax got the movie. Number 14. Southie locals roasted Robin Williams on site. Robin Williams didn't prep for Sean Maguire by hiding in an acting studio with a stack of psychology textbooks. He asked Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to take him drinking in South Boston. He wanted the real Southie, not the Hollywood version where everyone sounds like they learned the accent from a lobster commercial. So the boys hauled him to the L Street Tavern. And the locals did not roll out the red carpet. They swarmed him on arrival and started roasting the rich movie star who wandered into their bar. A few drunk regulars even tried to throw down with Ben Affleck. A future Oscar winner nearly catching hands in a dive bar is one of the most 90s sentences imaginable.
And Cuba Gooding for showing us how to give our acceptance speech. And all our friends and family.
Everyone walked out intact, and Williams was utterly charmed. He loved the bar's working-class energy so much that he pushed the studio to shoot there. And the L Street Tavern became the gang's hangout. The location scouts were already circling it anyway, since Gus Van Sant kept gravitating toward real Southie haunts. Williams' appetite for these dive bar field trips eventually spooked the studio, by Damon telling the order came down flat. Don't take Robin to any more locations. The man was such a delightful menace, they had to ground him. Number 13, Robin Williams did whole scenes as other actors first. On screen, Stellan Skarsgård's Professor Lambo is the picture of buttoned-up academic composure. But off-screen, he was just trying to survive whatever Robin Williams did next. Skarsgård called working with Williams a treat and a hazard in equal measure. Before a serious dramatic take, Williams would like to warm up by running the entire scene in other actors' voices. A little Jack Nicholson here, some Robert De Niro there, and then snapping into Sean Maguire's quiet sadness like flipping a switch. Skarsgård's main job in those moments was not laughing on camera, which he admitted was nearly impossible. That same improv energy birthed the movie's best moments. In the therapy scene where Sean talks about his late wife, the bit about her farting in her sleep loud enough to wake the dog, that was invented on the spot. Matt Damon's hysterical laughing is the real thing. Watch closely and the shot wobbles, because the camera operator was cracking up too hard to hold it steady. And then you've got the closing line. The script had Sean read Will's goodbye note, glance out the window, watch the car pull away, and then fade out. But Van Sant let the camera roll. Williams tried a few reactions, and on one take, he muttered that Will had gone and stolen his line. Damon, parked just off camera, grabbed Van Sant and demanded that they rewrite the ending right there. The proudest dad in Boston refusing to cry. Number 12, Damon and Affleck wept on day one. Before every philosophy major insisted he really got this movie, Good Will Hunting was just two broke Boston kids hauling around a screenplay that nobody would sure would ever exist. Then Robin Williams showed up for his first day, and the whole thing turned real in front of them. Damon and Affleck were still long shots at this point, a couple of small roles between them, and 0 produced screenplays. Now they were standing on an actual set watching one of the most famous men alive. The scene that first day put Williams opposite Stellan Skarsgård, two heavyweight veterans performing the Sean and Lambeau dialogue word for word. Damon came apart. Watching from behind the camera, he sat next to Affleck with tears rolling down his face, hit by the realization that the fantasy had stopped being a fantasy. Affleck, of course allergic to public sentiment, later downgraded the whole episode to them just tearing up a bit. But what got Damon wasn't just hearing the words out loud, it was that Williams and Skarsgård treated the writing with genuine respect. Two unknown 20-somethings watching Mrs. Doubtfire deliver their grief monologue like it was Shakespeare, quietly doing the math that they might actually have a movie. Number 11, they went 145 F-bombs over the PG-13 line. It's genuinely sweet that Miramax once looked at Good Will Hunting and pictured a PG-13 movie. A movie stuffed with bar fights and chain-smoking geniuses, and somebody in marketing thought, hey, families might enjoy this. In the late 90s, a PG-13, that was a golden ticket, because teenagers could buy their own seats without dragging a parent along. And teenagers buy a lot of tickets. So the second that Miramax owned the script, executives leaned on Damon and Affleck to scrub the language. By Damon's telling, the studio said that they could keep a PG-13 only if the movie capped out at around 3 F-bombs. Damon asked how far over they were. The exec checked the notes, and he said 145. 145 passed the line. At that point, you're not nudging a guideline, you're attempting a world record. There's no hard MPAA rulebook with an exact number, by the way. It's just a loose convention that shifts case by case. But 145 over any version of that line, well, that's its own achievement. Once Affleck and Damon saw the gap, they stopped pretending. Look, no cuts. The thing shipped exactly as filthy as written and collected its R. Number 10, a producer said that Minnie Driver wasn't sexy enough. Casting Skyler turned into a backroom brawl. By Driver's account, word came down from a producer fretting over her appearance. The gist being that she wasn't hot or sexy enough for the part. Whatever anyone thought of her face, it had nothing to do with whether she could act. Driver was 26 and still clawing for a foothold in Hollywood. She's called the feedback devastating. Your entire talent boiled down to whether some guy in a meeting personally found you cute enough. All of which, of course, is extra absurd because Skyler isn't written as a fantasy bombshell. She's smart, grounded, headed to med school, and fully capable of seeing through every defense that Will throws up. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Gus Van Sant all flatly disagreed and dug in for her, which, come on, that's the right move. And it took some nerve given that Damon and Affleck were still nobodies, praying not to get replaced themselves. Driver has said that she stayed grateful to all three ever since. Then, award season rolled around and Driver landed a Best Supporting Actress nomination, the closest that Hollywood ever gets to publicly telling an executive to sit down. Number 9. Matt Damon still cringes at the frosted hair tips. Now, most of Good Will Hunting holds up beautifully, but there's exactly one element that Matt Damon now looks at the way that you look at a high school yearbook photo after a couple of drinks. The frosted tips. While audiences were crying through the therapy scenes, Good Will Hunting was strolling around Southie looking like the unannounced 5th member of a boy band. Damon owns it completely. Around the film's 15th anniversary, he sat down with Vulture and torched his own head. He admitted that Affleck's hair aged just fine, while his looked like a personal crisis with a comb and way too much free time. He confessed that he genuinely wanted those frosted tips and has no idea what his problem was, and joked that he looked like he should have been singing backup for Color Me Bad. Now, the best part is that people tried to stop him. By Damon's own telling, both Gus Van Sant and Ben Affleck looked at the middle-parted, highlighted curtains and gave him a skeptical, "Really?" Damon refused to budge. He swore it nailed the exact energy of a late 90s South Boston kid. And he wasn't entirely wrong. Just the look died in a ditch somewhere around 1999, and the character never did. Damon's just quietly been praying that nobody ever remasters this thing in 4K. Number 8, that empty bench had hundreds watching. The bench scene, it sneaks up on you. Robin Williams by the lagoon, calmly dismantling Will's entire emotional defense system while the swan boats drifted past. It's routinely called one of the best monologues ever filmed. But what gets lost is that none of it happened on a sealed-off soundstage. Gus Van Sant shot it right out in the open in Boston Public Garden. The instant that word spread that Robin Williams was working there, the place filled up. Locals, students, tourists, families, a small army of Bostonians pretending that, I'm just passing through, for hours. This was peak Williams fame. so spotting him in public was roughly as common as seeing a unicorn in suspenders doing crowd work. Van Sant now had to capture the most intimate scene of the movie, with a stadium's worth of onlookers leaning in. His direction to Williams, by one account, was beautifully simple. Just keep talking. Then, in August 2014, the scene took on a weight that nobody planned for. After Williams died, that exact wooden bench became a memorial overnight. Fans buried it in flowers, notes, and chalk, scrawling lines from the film like, "Your move, Chief," right where he sat. It's still there. It's still a landmark, and it still draws visitors who fly in just to sit on the wood. Hey, quick pause. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button and subscribe to Remember When. And drop it in the comments. Which scene wrecks you every time, no matter how often you've seen it? Be honest. For me, I think it's the "it's not your fault" scene. It has to be. All right, let's go see About a Girl. Number 7, Skyler was based on Matt Damon's real girlfriend. That romance that everyone remembers, Matt Damon, he didn't invent most of it. He lived it. Skyler was lifted straight from Damon's real college girlfriend, a Harvard medical student named Skyler Satinstein. Same name and everything. In the movie, she's a Harvard student headed to Stanford for med school. But in reality, she was the brilliant, ambitious woman building a serious future while Damon juggled acting dreams and unfinished coursework. The awkward, defensive, half-funny rhythm of those scenes came from Damon minding his own life instead of cranking out standard Hollywood romance. The fairy tale did not follow him home, though. The real Skyler eventually left him for Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich, whom she married. Losing your Harvard med girlfriend to a globally famous rock star? That's not heartbreak as much as getting flattened by a Scandinavian freight train. And then, life got stranger on set. Because Damon fell for Minnie Driver, the actress hired to play the fictional version of his ex, they dated about a year while the movie detonated into a hit. It ended in 1998 when Damon mentioned on Oprah that he was single, which by Driver's account was news to her. She learned it roughly when the viewing audience did. Weeks later, he turned up at the Oscars with a new girlfriend while she was still reeling, and she since called herself devastated. The film's about a guy learning to stop running from love. Real life, it clearly needed another draft. Number 6, those chalkboard equations are 100% real. Hollywood loves slapping pure nonsense on a chalkboard and then calling it genius, but Good Will Hunting went the opposite direction and used math that actually checks out. Damon and Affleck knew that they couldn't fake it. The entire movie collapses if Will doesn't read as terrifyingly brilliant, and nothing kills that faster than equations that look like rejected Sudoku. While writing the script, they cold-called the real MIT mathematics professor, Daniel Kleitman, and basically asked him to speak math at them so they can nail how actual mathematicians talk. Kleitman pulled in a postdoc named Tom Bowman, and the production hired physicist Patrick O'Donnell as an official consultant. That's a crazy amount of brain power hired purely to make some chalkboards look intimidating. The payoff is that the problems are genuinely solvable. It's actual college-level work, not just gibberish. The film just dresses it up like an unsolved mystery of the universe. Of course, the famous one is the advanced Fourier system, which Lambeau posts in the hallway. It's the one that Will cracks while mopping. Mathematicians who've looked at it since mostly shrug. It's the kind of thing that a sharp undergrad can knock out for homework, but on screen, with the ominous music and the stunned professors, it plays like Will just split the atom with a piece of chalk. The real math sprawls further than that, dipping into graph theory and homeomorphically irreducible trees. Yeah, which sounds less like a math concept and more like a band that opened for Radiohead in '97. Every guy with frosted tips left the theater convinced that, yeah, I could solve it too. Yeah, they couldn't. Number 5, Sir William Wallace nearly sat on the director's chair. Once the director hunt started, executives lined up heavy hitters, and Mel Gibson, fresh off of his Best Director Oscar for Braveheart, circled the project.
I don't write speeches, but I would like to thank a few people, and I have it on a list. Not a long list, not too long anyway.
Landing him would have been enormous. There was just one snag, though. By Affleck's account, neither he nor Damon had actually seen Braveheart yet. Studio brass flatly ordered them to lie and gush about it in the meeting. Picture two terrified writers across from an Oscar winner going, "Oh, Braveheart? Incredible, very Scottish." Gibson genuinely loved the script, and he spent a few months developing it. But then he wanted more time to refine his vision, which is reasonable for a serious drama and a disaster for two guys who had written the lead roles for themselves. So drag development out long enough, and they'd age clean out of their own movie. So Damon made the call that no one wants to make. He went to Gibson directly and asked, basically, would you let it go before Ben and I are too old to play these parts? To Gibson's credit, he understood and walked away clean, which freed the studio to bring in Van Sant. Somewhere in another universe, Robin Williams is screaming about apples in slow motion over bagpipes. Number 4, The Bug Line was a secret Brando tribute. Buried inside all of the emotional speeches and Southie attitude is one of the strangest film nerd inside jokes of the 90s. The moment lands right after Will torches the Harvard guy in the bar with the legendary, "Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?" Everyone spills outside, Skyler walks up, and Casey Affleck's character, Morgan, abruptly announces, "I swallowed a bug," and then just leaves. To a normal viewer, it reads like pure gibberish. Now, on the DVD commentary, Damon and Affleck cleared it up. The line is lifted straight from Hearts of Darkness, the documentary chronicling the catastrophic shoot of Apocalypse Now. Typhoons, breakdowns, Martin Sheen nearly dying, and Brando turning up refusing to learn his lines. At one point, Brando deadpans, "I swallowed a bug," because an actual bug had flown into his mouth mid-take. Damon and the Affleck brothers found the delivery so absurd that they smuggled it into the script as an Easter egg for the hardcore movie crowd. It tells you exactly who these guys were back then. Not just struggling actors, but obsessive film geeks inhaling behind-the-scenes documentaries like Finals Week flashcards. And watch closely when Casey says it. Damon starts to crack before reining himself in. Number 3, Robin Williams worked for a fraction of his rate. By the mid-90s, Robin Williams wasn't an actor so much as a small national economy. Aladdin, Mrs. Doubtfire, Jumanji. The man could swing from cartoon genie to sobbing dad in the same afternoon, and studios would happily pay him about $20 million a picture for that privilege. Good Will Hunting had a budget of about $10 million, so the math, it didn't work. Hiring Robin Williams for the movie was like trying to drive a Ferrari off the lot with a fistful of Blockbuster coupons. So Williams read the script, and he didn't love it in the polite way. He really connected to it. Underneath the Harvard genius chalkboard stuff, the movie is about busted up people learning to let somebody care about them without torching the place on the way out. Sean Maguire wasn't flashy bait either. Just a quiet, grieving, funny man hauling his sadness around like a coat that he couldn't take off. Williams wanted him bad enough to slash his own paycheck to a fraction of his usual rate, purely so the thing could get built. He wasn't naive about money, though. The contract handed him back-end profit participation, a slice of the box office if the movie hit. And yeah, it hit. Over $225 million worldwide. That percentage made Williams a fortune on the back end. And the smallest, calmest role of his career finally pried loose the only Oscar he'd ever win.
I want to thank my father up there, the man who, when I said I wanted to be an actor, he said, "Wonderful, just have a backup profession like welding."
Number 2, professors turned the movie into homework. Good Will Hunting didn't just become a hit. It became the kind of movie that professors would start assigning. It worked its way into sociology, psychology, education theory, and film studies. A movie about 2 Southie guys screaming about their feelings, dissected in academic journals. The thing is, they weren't wrong to do it. Underneath the frosted tips and wall-to-wall profanity, the film is one long brawl between 2 Americas. Scholars call it the 2 Bostons. One side, you had the working-class Southie, construction jobs, dive bars, friends who insult you lovingly over fries at 1 a.m., and on the other, you got Harvard and MIT, old money academia, and people using 12-syllable words about books that nobody finished. Will is stuck in the middle, and papers love that he treats his own genius as a betrayal. Chucky, Morgan, and Billy stand in for fierce neighborhood loyalty, so every prestigious job offer secretly translates to, "Oh, congrats, you think you're better than us." A lot of people far from Boston feel that exact fear, that success might cut you loose from the people who built you. Therapy and counseling courses pick apart Sean and Will too, usually framing Sean's lived-in empathy against Lambeau's rigid institutional credentials, and the famous bar scene gets cited in educational philosophy as a takedown of credentialism. Will didn't buy the Harvard degree, he just read the books. That one scene probably made thousands of freshmen insufferable in coffee shops for like half a decade. And number 1, Damon filmed a whole scene dead asleep. Good Will Hunting built its whole reputation on feeling real. One scene pulled that off because Matt Damon was genuinely unconscious, not acting drowsy, but flat out asleep, which fits considering that Damon was starring in the movie, co-writing it, producing it, and grinding through nonstop press all at once, running on Duncan, stress, and just pure Boston stubbornness. The scene where Skyler talks to Will in bed was slotted for right after lunch, so Damon stretched out of the dorm room set, figuring that he'd grab a head start. His body had other plans, though, and shut the whole operation down. He passed out cold. Most crews wake the lead up and then reset. Well, this one looked at a sleeping Matt Damon and decided to keep him. Cinematographer Jean-Yves Escoffier reportedly suggested that they just let him sleep and shoot it from overhead. So the crew rigged a structure to hang the camera above the bed while Damon continued his accidental nap. Then Minnie Driver came in and acted the scene around him. By her account, she nudged him, and Damon answered in half-asleep mumbles from somewhere between REM. Gus Van Sant quietly steered the whole thing toward Driver, since his other lead was technically unavailable. The accident landed perfectly. Will spends the entire movie hiding behind sarcasm and panic, but he's too wiped out to hold a single wall up. It's easily the softest he ever looks. And there you have it, everyone. 15 weird and wild facts about Good Will Hunting. 25 years later, and people still quote the jokes and quietly carry the therapy scenes with them. Which surprised you the most? Well, tell us in the comments, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share this with a friend who still does the Apple line every chance they get. Until next time, no goodbye, no see you later, no nothing. This is Remember When.